you, don't worry.
We gotta keep this, we gotta keep it.
Yeah, creature superstition.
5'7", I think people would got him.
All right, good afternoon, guys. Appreciate you being here. First of all, I want to thank the fans that weathered some of the bad weather to start the game and certainly made their presence felt. I'm looking forward to seeing them pack the house this weekend coming up. And then again, got a chance to review the film and get right back to practice, back to work with our guys today and quickly turn our focus to Texas A&M. Obviously a really impressive team, lots of good players coming off a really big performance on Saturday and whatnot. So certainly looking forward to the opportunity. Again, good start today. And questions, please.
Yeah, Texas A&M had a lot of success through the air. So what are going to be the big challenges for Miami's DBs and pass rushing?
Well, they bring a lot of challenges, not only through the air, but they're big up front. They're big, they're physical, they're talented. Those are athletic guys. They move their feet well. They're heavy-handed. They've got a really good run game. They took their shots, so I think that might be a little bit skewed as to their capabilities because they have a very strong run game. And you watch the way that not only their alignment, but their tight ends, the way they involve them in the running game, and the way their receivers block in the run game as well. They're a very potent offense. So they're a challenging bunch, and we're looking forward to it.
What challenges does a Bobby Petrino offense pose?
Well, it's a lot of years of great offenses, right? And he's done it every way imaginable, right? He knows how to use his pieces. He's got some really good pieces over there. They got off to a great start. They've got a great quarterback, and he's got some great supporting cast members, I should say. So, the most important thing is making sure that we study film really, really well, and that our plan is as airtight as it could be to give our players the best chance to play fast and free.
Mario, it's kind of a two-part question on Colby Young first. I know we can't build for a bit. I wanted to check and make sure he's good to go.
Yes.
And the second thing is that, on that screenplay to start off the game, obviously it's defining aspects, kind of
Well, he's a fast guy. He's okay, first of all. You know, he took a shot to the leg, but he was full go. I mean, he finished the game just a little bit banged up, but no, he worked on his speed. He worked on his initial quickness more than anything this offseason, and his ability to accelerate and decelerate so he could become a complete route runner, which is really important to him. You know, coming out of the junior college, a lot of people thought, well, is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? I mean, he's a really good wide receiver. And I think his hard work in the offseason has paid off. It shows, and it showed in this past game. So showed a nice burst there, did a great job securing the football, but even more so just did a nice job setting up his blocks down the field. So he wants to get better. He knows there's a lot of areas he wants to attack, and he's relentless about his approach to the game. So a great guy to have on our team.
Mario, Connor Wegman, to Evans, I want to know about him, had a good game, and Evan Stork and Noah Thomas had great games. How tough will they be to defend? I know you touched on that, but in that vein, kind of your thoughts on your cornerbacks, how they did.
Well, they're really good. I mean, they've not only in this past game that they played, but they've shown even last year how good they can be, and they've scored a lot of points and make a lot of explosive plays. That really was probably what stuck out most of their game on Saturday, that the score kept changing in a hurry because of the explosive plays that they made. But again, they're not a one-dimensional team. I mean, they can run the ball really, really well. They protect the quarterback really well. So, again, looking forward to the challenge.
Game ones can be hit or miss sometimes with blocking and tackling. How do you, after assessing the film for you guys on game one, how do you feel like you guys did in those phases?
Progress, solid performance in a lot of different areas, especially as it relates to tackling, as it relates to blocking. We had I think it was one negative play, and it was because Emery scrambled late, a little bit of a coverage sack. That was a one negative play. So up front, there's improvement and lots of improvement to be made, right? Hat position, hand placement, movement, identifications, leverage angles, all that stuff. But there certainly is progress, which we're excited about. And I think our players watched the film, and they left there with, I would say, just an appetite to get better. They brought upon themselves to continue working hard, practice harder, getting better game shape, right? We didn't have a ton of plays this past game, and it was a night game. So now the challenges during the day become greater, right? When we're playing in some of the climates that we're going to be playing, particularly at home. So, and it needs to be an advantage for us. So, but overall, just being around our team now for the past several months, it wasn't a shock that the conversations were centered around improvement, as opposed to, hey, we did this really well. So it's a good place to be in.
Coach, you had 2 new running backs making their debuts at Hard Rock Stadium Saturday night, A.J. Allen and Mark Fletcher. I mean, with the progress I'm sure you saw for fall camp up into the big stage there as a season opener, how do you think that really followed through from fall camp and even over the summer?
Yeah, they performed well. I thought all backs did, especially considering the fact that, Miami of Ohio does play that extra defender in the box. They create tough angles. You saw the edges, how tight they were, so it's tough to get yards inside. And sometimes they made them inside, and sometimes they bounced them outside, but they played with really good discipline and really good ball security, which was really important, right? They were on point with their assignments, with their reads for the most part, and they ran hard. So for a guy that just got here, transferred in, that just dumped in a fall camp, another guy that's a high schooler that also didn't start up until June, those guys, they did a really good job. They really did.
I know each year it's a different team for both sides, but last year, kind of the story of the game was red zone for both teams. Is that a point of emphasis you're making this week to the team?
I think I think every team in the country will always make that point, and you work it. It's such a big part of fall camp, right? It's such a big part of your game plan. And last year, we really struggled in the red zone, and they were, I believe, a top 10, top 7 to be exact red zone defense in the country. They just do a really good job of forcing you to just earn every inch down there. Just a very well-coached team. There's a lot of experience on that staff and a lot of really good football players, and they put it all together really well.
Coach, Xavier Restrepo was manning the kick return duties, punt and kick return. Can you go into why you went with him for those duties?
He earned it. He won it flat out.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about, you not only coached but played in a lot of big games with the bright lights and this being a nationally televised event. Is the message any different to the players this week going into this matchup?
The message in terms of,
You know, just with the brighter lights and, you know, more attention being on this game, is it any different than any other game, or?
well, I think, you know, the juice like takes care of itself, right? I don't think I can do anything at a practice or a meeting to increase that. They're very well aware of the opportunity that we have in front of us. I think we're fortunate to have a bunch of guys that they like to work, and they're really taking these processes and they're elevating standards, you know, on a daily basis. And so far, they've allowed us to push ourselves, which is really, really important. So, in terms of that stuff, I think when you reach that level of being a competitor at a high level, that it doesn't matter what lines up in front of you, you want to get after it. Do we all know the lights get brighter, the national TV, right? They used to call them like the three blimp games, right? I don't know if they fly blimps anymore overhead, but those were the big ones. I think we all know. We all know the opportunity that, again, is in front of us, and our guys they're really excited to play, and it showed in practice today.
Mario, they're honoring the 1983 Hurricanes at halftime on Saturday. I guess you would have been probably, 12 or 13 during that year. So, do you have any memories of that team and what they were like?
I remember a black and white TV in my grandfather's house. I remember that. Yeah, it's iconic, historic. I mean, name it anything super and positive that you can, because it changed. I think it changed the community down here, right? It changed what the Miami Hurricanes were to be and the future and the brand, the label. I think it made Hurricane fans out of all of us, you know, because of the way they played the game. And then on top, of course, they won the game, but the way they played the game and just inspired so many after that to come and become Miami Hurricanes as well. And then it inspired fans across not only the community, but across the entire country. So obviously a tremendous honor to have those guys in-house. I know we have at least one on staff, couple on staff, you know, so.
What stands out about Texas A&M's D-line?
What stands out? A lot, you know. Besides being disruptive, they're disruptive because they're explosive players that are really thick and powerful, but they're also athletic where they can counter. They can get themselves out of tough positions. They split double teams. Even when your double teams are really, from a technique and fundamental standpoint, they're done really well. They create edges in the passing game. You know, they find ways to, you know, just use their hands really well and pin an elbow or get a hold of a wrist, dip, rip, get underneath, flip the offensive lineman's hips and create, you know, some really just condensed pockets. They push the pocket in the middle, but it's not just from a bull rush standpoint. They truly, they're coached really well, and they're really talented, and they play hard. Now, they're an excellent D-line.
Remember the ACC, you know, adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU, and I know you know Cal and Stanford really well. Just your thoughts on the addition of those teams and also how it helps you recruiting-wise, because you know that area.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time out there playing against those teams. Really good teams, really good schools, great fan bases, great places to play. And I trust the leadership of not only our university, but our conference, and certainly excited to have those teams as part of it as well.
What do you like about Francisco's performance after watching the film?
Oh, he's relentless. You know, he plays fearless, throws his body around. He's reckless with his body, but he's pinpoint, just accurate and detailed in his assignments, alignments, and all that kind of stuff. Tremendous nose for the ball. Like he gets it, and he's a great leader. I mean, he's unfazed. All right, good play, bad play, he's on to the next one. I think guys feed off of that, and they know that he's as good of a person as he is a football player. So it resonates strongly when he has success.
Do you expect Elijah Arroyo to be possibly available for this game?
We expect he has a good chance to be available. You know, he makes a lot of progress. It's a tough one, man. You know, I'd love to come in here and say ready to roll, or just be able to rule it out to make it clear for all of us. But it's progressing. It's just hard to say. We're very hopeful, and from what we saw today, we're very encouraged. Feel good about it.
And Jaleel Skinner, I don't believe he played a snap in the last game. Is he okay?
He's okay. He's okay. He's working his way into the lineup. He's a good football player, and he's working to get more reps.
Mario, a lot of rotation at linebacker. You know, Francisco, KJ Floyd, Hussein, Corey Flagg, Keandre, a lot of guys obviously getting in. That's something you expect to kind of continue going forward, or
Well, if guys earn playing time, they're going to play. I think you see it by position. Certain positions had a lot of rotations and others didn't. And it's strictly on who earns playing time. It's not going to be just gifted. It's not going to be inherited. That position is one in particular that has a lot of competition, and those guys have demonstrated the ability to run our systems at a higher level and play. And for the most part, they played really well, and they played hard, which is really important. They got us lined up the right way. It's good to have those guys playing different combinations with each other. God forbid any injuries occur, we could mix and match a little bit better. So looking forward to not only that position, but the running back is another position. The running back position is one that there is competition, and we let it play itself out throughout the course of the week. It keeps those guys on edge, and it keeps them playing at a higher level.
Mario, the freshmen, a lot of freshmen played, you talked a little bit about that after the game. They're especially the true freshmen, their attitudes now, and I know, like, Francisco is a veteran, so he's unfazed going forward. What did this game do for them, you think, confidence and just their attitude now?
Their attitude, I don't think their attitude's ever been different. 15 of them played, 15 high school, that were in high school last year played, not counting redshirt freshmen and whatnot. So that's a lot. They were excited. We expected that amount to play. We did in recruiting. Just felt that they were high-level guys that come from really good programs, and they trained. They earned it. We're not going to throw a guy out there just because he was a highly recruited guy, and we don't want to ruffle any feathers. That just doesn't work. If you don't earn it, you're just not going to play, and we're going to help you find the path to get better and play, and all these guys did. So I think that being out there, they realize how different it is, and then being having a coach nearby where he could give you a tip or a reminder at the last second in practice, which we try to stay away from. But I think they all did really well. I don't think any of them, I don't think the moment was too big for any of them, regardless of sometimes in this game, there were some guys that played when the game was in hand. We had control of it, but even so, I don't think any of them were fazed by it, and we look forward to playing more of them and having them get more playing time as well.
With Tyler's tape thing, is that something he's going to have to play through or play with the whole year, you think, or is it something that could alleviate as the season progresses?
He's fine. I mean, he liked it when they tried it. I think, so much was made of it in the media when they saw him with that. Some people thought it was like a prosthetic finger or something, but he, whatever makes him feel comfortable. I mean, you saw him throw the ball. There's no limits on what he can do. I think that our training staff is very high tech, very cutting edge, where they just, they create some really neat ways to enhance the efficiency, alleviate any issues that our guys may have. In Tyler's case, it's more of efficiency and just operational. He has no limits right now.
Coach, to bring in Francis, Matt, and then JD onto this program this season, seems like it's gone really quickly. You got to see what they're capable of. The run block you mentioned earlier was really strong on Friday night. What has that relationship done for you to be able to have them as a former offensive lineman here at Miami?
Yeah, it's something that we need to do every single year. I think it's a great billboard. It's a great commercial for other guys that are seeking opportunities to grow at that position. We're such a trench-driven organization, and we need more. And certainly we need some playmakers outside. And I think that it's only been one game, but I think if you sat them down and you asked them their experience, how they're developing, how they're treated, how they're growing and maturing, I think you'll be very happy with their responses. And to see them come out and perform as if they'd been playing together for a long time, that was neat to see. And it was better to see them today talking about how to get better. It really was. Those guys have a lot of pride. They are not in any way, shape, or form looking for pats on the back or any kind of satisfaction. They just want to improve. They want to get better, and they want to win.
What did you like most about Matt Lee's performance?
Matt Lee played well. That was the expectation. Watching him on film, while he was at UCF, you could tell he was a high-level player. He's gained about 20 pounds since he's been here, 20 pounds of good weight. He's practiced extremely hard. I mean, he was a representative for us at media days. He was selected as a captain for this past week's game, so the fact that he played well was no surprise. And he likes to be pushed, so we're going to push him. Matt Lee's got a lot more in the tank to give his teammates in the University of Miami, so we're going to make sure that we're going to get it.
His athleticism, is it different because he was out there pulling and leading the way as a center? Haven't really seen that much around here, but
You know, yeah, it's probably not since the days of Don Bailey. Have you seen that kind of stuff around here, you know? It is, it's a tremendous advantage, you know. We like to think of offensive linemen as being as big a playmakers as some of the guys out in the perimeter, because when they can do certain things, well, then you can expand the offense and some of the things you do as well. So proud of his effort and performance and looking forward to getting after his butt all week long. Good. Guys, thank you for being here, okay? I'll see you later in the week.
Coach, when you're going against a team that has a offensive coordinator that's known for putting up points and scoring quickly, how does that impact your preparation during the week?
None. No. I mean, I'm going against their defense, not their offense. So, no, I mean, we're just trying to attack the best way we can.
Coach, I know you talked about during camp there were some players that you knew or thought were going to stand out during the game and throughout the season. Were there any players this weekend that stood out in particular that you were pleasantly surprised with how they performed?
I mean, our running back room looked pretty good to me. There's a lot of depth in that room, which I think everybody can see what competition brings. Those guys were fighting for reps, which when they run the ball, it shows. We had some receivers make plays. Restrepo's been solid, right? He was solid in that game. I mean, it was one of those games where, they were playing coverage, kind of begging us to run the ball a little bit. I guess they didn't think we could pound them, but and so obviously that was working. So we were going to stick with that until they brought more people down, which they really never did. So. But those guys, I mean, Kobe made a good play first drive. I mean, that was a good play by him. I thought, George did some good things. I mean, we had guys all around that did some good things. It wasn't just one of those nights where you're throwing it all around. Was not a lot of plays to be made because we were having success in other things, and that's just the way life goes sometimes. But I thought they played hard and they moved around fast.
Even guys like any kind of pound the rock, Mark Fletcher, making his college debut. Obviously, it's one thing to kind of see him do that on the practice field, but to see him be able to kind of run through and run past other college players, like what impressed you about him? What did you like?
Yeah, he's different. I mean, he's hard to tackle. I mean, he's built for that position. He can take some abuse, and he's hard to tackle. And when he gets out in the open field, he can run the distance, and so he's a special player. Glad to have him. Thought he played well. I mean, I thought Cam. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Cam did isn't going to show up in the stat line, but he was. I mean, Cam's an extremely smart player. He very rarely messes up an assignment. I mean, he knows what's going on, and so he's played a lot of football. He's been around football for a long time, and so I thought he was one of the guys that played really, really well. You wouldn't be able to look at the stat line and tell that, but when you watch the games like we do, I mean, he was one of the bigger reasons we ran the ball like we did.
Don Chaney Jr.'s had a tough time the past couple seasons. Had a really nice touchdown run. What did you see out of him?
Yeah, just what you did. I mean, he's been showing that in camp. He's been competing. He looks really good. He's moving around well. He's taking advantage of his reps. And he needed to do what he did on Friday. And so I thought that he, like I said at the beginning, I mean, that room's got some stacked talent in it. So everybody's fighting for reps and reps in games, but he's doing what he needs to do.
The difference in going from like a Miami of Ohio team to a Texas A&M for them, huge difference, or I mean, will they be
for who?
It's the running backs.
Yeah, I mean, look, A&M is a talented team. We all know that. I mean, you can look at their bodies, and they're bigger, they're longer, they're faster, and so everything's gonna, the sense of urgency at every position needs to improve and has to improve, and so I mean that naturally happens through the course of preparation. Kids know, they watch film.
Even within the context of Miami of Ohio giving you looks where they wanted you to run the ball. Did you attack downfield as much as you would like?
I mean, when I did, I mean, I got a little impatient one time and it got picked, So, I mean, it was one of those deals where I'm always eager and I'm always looking to take shots. That's part of my DNA. But I've learned over 20-something years of coaching, too, that, the win means more important than anything else. And so ultimately, if we're having success, and the way we're built, honestly, I mean, people are going to have to stop the run. We're good up front. We're physical. Those guys took it pretty personal that everybody was talking about how physical the other team was, right? And so it's pretty evident from the first play, really, that our guys were pushing them around. And so, I watched that too, and the ebb and flows of games are going to change what you want to do. Now, were there other shots that could have been taken? They were. I mean, and it's not like we didn't have like post routes called at times, but I mean, the quarterback isn't going to throw them when they're not there. And so a lot of times you have those things called through the course of games multiple times, 10, 12 times, and then the ball goes to the flats because they're playing soft coverage. So a lot of times that's not very indicative of the play that's called, of where the ball goes. A lot of times that has a lot to do with the coverage that's called. But ultimately, through the course of the game and how the game was going, you know, I mean, it would have been dumb for me not to lean on those guys, you know, because it was working.
Were you able to kind of hold back some of the offensive playbook for the first week, or maybe planning on maybe opening up a little bit more when you get to tougher team this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do a lot of things that were even on the sheet last week, and ultimately that was because of, you know, when we got out there. I mean, we started the game in 10 personnel, 2 by 2. And they played it completely different than they've shown they played it. And so that told me something from the beginning, that, you know, that they were going to play coverage all day. And so, you know, obviously a lot of the stuff that I had planned, I just didn't need to go to at that time. You know, there were certain things that I circled right off the bat that I was like, all right, this is the way this game's going to go. And at halftime, really, we pinpointed the 5 or 6 things that we wanted to do the second half, and I think I scored on every possession, or maybe we didn't score on one, but, you know, we didn't do a whole lot through the course of the game.
The extra offensive lineman, that's something you've done previously, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the years you've done it, just based on the people available, you know. I mean, you want to get in certain sets based on stuff that they do in short yardage and stuff that they do in third down, and if you don't have those people available, then you do other things. And so, but that's part of game planning and just figuring out what package you want to use in certain situations. And I do think those guys bring an element of point of attack. You know, when you have those big guys up there at point of attack, I think it moves people.
How did you assess the quarterback play from obviously Van Dyke playing most of the game, but also Emory Williams getting his first collegiate action?
I thought Tyler was very efficient. You know, I thought he made a few mistakes. The pick, obviously, you know, I mean, to be quite honest with you, that's as much my fault as it is his. I mean, I got a little greedy on that drive because I was, itching to throw the ball vertical, and I called that a little bit premature, and so he was probably antsy too, and so that's more my fault than it is his. And so, but through the course of the game, you know, some of the things you don't see with quarterback play is there's certain plays that are called that he gets us out of the call because there's certain fronts they're playing, and you know, when they play coverage, I mean, he'll check run at times when there's a pass play checked and stuff like that. So he did a great job of getting us into the right play. And I'll say this too, I mean, because he was probably as eager as I was, but you know, I mean, it probably hurt him at times to check out of those and hand the ball off again, you know. But ultimately, that's what the numbers told you to do. And so, and I thought that was very good for him to sit there and be patient and learn that, look, man, I mean, it ain't all about, you know, throwing the ball 60 times a game, you know, and I mean, it's about getting the win. And, you know, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly it was what, 17 of 23 or 18 of 23. So, and one of them was a throwaway at the end of the half. I thought that play, honestly, the drive at the end of the half and the drive to start the third quarter, to me, was where he kind of settled in. And, you know, that drive, I mean, we had a holding penalty that took away like a 40-yard gain by George. And then we pop a run to get down there. And we have, I think, 7 seconds left. And he just understood the situation. You know, the play that was called, you know, had multiple options, but he knew that, like, we were going to have that option or out of bounds. And his first option wasn't there, and he threw it out of bounds, which saved us 2 seconds to kick a field goal. And so I thought that drive by him was exceptional. And then the drive coming out of half was just methodically, you know, he hit a couple quick game plays, we ran the ball down, and then hit a big run. And so, you know, he was it's always good to score at the end and score at the beginning. You know, that's a pretty good, you know, way to start the second half. But the last drive of the first half was very efficient by him.
The red zone, just your assessment of how you guys did in the red zone, and then the challenge A&M poses it defensively.
Yeah, I mean, you know, trying to think about, you know, the times we didn't score. You know, typically when we didn't score, it was something we did. You know, we jumped off sides a couple times, right? And so, you know, cleaning that up is the bigger process from week 1 to week 2 in our situation. But you want to score touchdowns. We were 4 for 4 in the red zone, but we were 50% touchdowns, field goals, right? So you want to be 75 to 80% touchdowns in the red zone. So, you know, the way I look at games, I mean, that was a below the bar, you know, performance red zone wise. But, you know, one of the reasons was because we inflicted some self-hurt down there too, right? We were a little antsy at times and jumped off sides and stuff put us behind the chains. But ultimately, we did run the ball physically down there, which is what you have to do when the field gets shorter. You know, it's going to be the same way against A&M. I mean, you look at the structure of their defense, and I mean, you know, I think they were number 1 in the nation against the pass last year, right? And so, you know, things get tough when bodies are big and they move fast. When you get closer to the goal line, it gets a little tougher.
Obviously, the first thing that stands out about Colby Young is how tall he is, but how much does his combination of height and kind of the speed he showed on that screen touchdown help you guys in the offense? What does it do for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough guy to bring down. I mean, he's a big physical kid that can run, and so, you know, that was an elite play by him. But there was a couple of hitch routes he caught where it took 3 people to bring him down. You know, which to me those plays show a little bit more to me, because the screen was, I mean, he hit it, caught it, scored, great. You know, that's all fun and games, but he caught a couple of hitch routes where he probably should have got 5, but he got 12. You know, that's fighting for extra yards, and that's being tough, physical player. So yeah, very proud of him.
You talked about getting greedy a little bit.
Yeah.
When that happens every now and then as a coach, how hard do you get on yourself? How fast can you get over that? And then I have a second part.
I mean, I think now I get over things pretty quick, to be honest with you. You know, I was more curious to see how, you know, we were going to be on the sideline after a negative play, you know, after adversity. And I thought it was awesome. Like, honestly, I thought that was the best part of the whole game was, you know, I've preached to these guys since I got here of picking up teammates, right? I mean, heck, it isn't really about the great plays you make. It's about the bad plays other people make and what you do to pick those guys up, you know. And so I was very curious when that happened to watch us come off the field and see how the communication was going to be between players. And so you preach something and you get in those situations and you see if anybody's paying attention to you, I guess is what you would say. It was awesome. Man, everybody went over, from O-linemen to receivers to everybody, and everybody was saying the right thing. A very positive interaction. And so that told me something about the group, you know. Look, you're going to mess up. I didn't call the perfect game. You know, that was obviously a play that I would like to have back, and he would too. But it also revealed something to me about the group, which was very positive.
You were talking about Tyler also?
Yeah.
Or are they making him feel better?
Well, Tyler too. I mean, I wanted to see how he reacted too, you know. And so I thought overall, everybody on the sideline was just, hey, move on, next play, right? And so I thought that was awesome.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was Jakari Brown. Would you like to get him maybe into the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both there to play, okay? And ultimately, I have 4 games to play with both of them. And so I'm going to be very strategic in what I do with both of those guys. And so, you know, people can read into whatever they want to read into, but I got 4 games. And so.
Coach, just going back to the progression of Mark Fletcher, with him still being relatively new to the offense, you mentioned the competitiveness of the running back room. At what point during fall camp did you realize that he'd be so versatile with capitalizing on the way that he did the other day against Miami, Ohio with the inside reads?
Probably the first scrimmage, the first live scrimmage we had was where he kind of popped, you know, and it was obvious that he was going to be a hard guy to tackle.
Coach, can you talk about some of the athletes on A&M's defense that kind of stand out to you and what challenges they pose?
Which ones you want to talk about? I mean,
Whichever
I
one.
mean, I mean, all of them are very athletic. You know, I mean, the people they walk out on the field are elite. You know, they're long, they're fast, their D line's athletic, they're big, they're physical. Linebackers are long and rangy. I mean, the Cooper kid is, I think, 6'3", 240. I mean, he runs east to west really well. The back end guys, the safeties, tackle well. You know, they get there with mean intentions. So, I mean, we could talk about all of them if you want to, but I mean, they're a talented group. We know what we have facing us, and we're going to prepare and be ready for the task.
Great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
And that kid's
Questions for Defensive Coordinator Lance Guidry?
Coach, what makes Bobby Petrino a special play caller?
He's experienced. He's been a lot of places, seen a lot of things. I think he's evolved as a play caller over the years. He's not stuck in his ways, so say. I think he's a student of the game, and he's been successful everywhere he's been, you know. So a lot of respect to him. Really good football coach.
What makes his offense so difficult to defend?
I think he knows how to get the players the football. You know, sometimes you can have a scheme, but your scheme has to find players. And I think he does a good job of putting guys in spots to make plays and giving them the ball even sometimes when they open, you know, big receivers. But you see a little bit of Coach Fisher's flair in there too as you look at the film. It's a little bit of a mix. I think it's probably a little bit more of Coach Petrino, but there's still a lot of Coach Fisher in that offense. So,
What do you see in Connor Wegman, the Aggies quarterback?
athletic, can run, kind of runs like a wide receiver a little bit, like an X receiver. He's big, got a talented arm, great release, looks like a 5-star.
Obviously, A&M had kind of a field day passing the ball in week 1. How do you think your quarterbacks match up with their receivers? They have a lot of talent at that position.
You know, that's why you play the game. You don't know how you guys are going to play till you get out there. You got to give them the best information you can and know what to expect. But sometimes when you get in the game, people start doing a lot of different wrinkles, and it becomes one-on-one. And we'll fight, though. We'll fight them. And if I can get a 12th man on the field, I will.
Did Friday night provide any clarity for you as far as the defensive back position? You played a lot of guys.
We did play a lot of guys. We played some guys late in the game. I thought the guys that went out there early on played really hard. It was sound. I thought we ran to the football and we tackled well. I thought that was really big. You really don't know how you're going to tackle in game 1, but I thought we played with a lot of great effort, and guys ran to the ball, and even when a guy missed, another one was there. So I thought we were pretty clean for the most part. We didn't jump off sides on hard counts, which was good. You always worry about that. So it was pretty clean on defense. Thought we stopped the run well. So this week presents a whole different challenge, though. Big boy ball this week.
Speaking of which, can you talk a little bit about Leonard Taylor? Obviously, it was hard not to notice that he had limited reps out there. He had a penalty and all that. Are you guys as a coaching staff trying to wake up the beast a little bit there? I mean, everyone's always talked about what a great player he can be. Just hasn't done it consistently enough early in his career.
Well, we're in a rotation right now, and you get in the game and you rotate guys and put different guys in. You don't know how long the series would last. But we played about as much as we needed him to play or wanted him to play the other night. Still getting in shape to where he can last throughout games. So through the course of the season, his rep count will go up, and we need Leonard to play well because Leonard can really be a force inside.
How do you feel the number 2 D-line played relative to the number 1? Was there much of a drop-off?
Not much of a drop-off, and we mixed and matched a lot of guys, which was good. And we did that all camp, and even in the spring, we played a lot of, backup-type guys. So I thought they did well, and we're going to need guys that continue to develop. You can't go out there and just play with one D-line. You need guys fresh at the end of a game because they got to tackle running backs. Offensive linemen don't, sub a lot, but they don't have to make tackles. They can block and just hold on to people and lean on people, whereas defensive linemen got to disengage and run and tackle people with the football. So they get a little bit tireder, so you got to have really more numbers on the defensive side.
Kind of a similar question about a linebacker spot. So you guys rotated a lot on Friday. How do you think, each kind of group of linebackers did, and how much do you foresee continuing to rotate like that throughout the year?
I thought they all played pretty good. Kiko, of course, played really well. KJ played good. Wesley played well. Flag came in there, got some meaningful snaps. K4 came in there, played a little bit of Sam Backer. I like the way they all played. They'll have to improve this week, of course. They'll be challenged a little bit more, but we need to continue to play a bunch of guys because we're going to need them down the stretch.
How do you feel that the execution at nickel was? Seemed like their slot receiver got loose a little bit.
Yeah, it was really some coverage stuff, and sometimes that nickel was tied into the run game. And when he's tied into the run game, he's in conflict with pass and run. So it's not like we just cut the guy loose. It was an RPO. They took it through out there. And sometimes that happens. You got to run and get him down, tackle him, and go to the next play. So man-to-man cleans up a lot of that, but you can't sit man all the time. So 10 was a good football player. He was really athletic. Louisiana boy. Had a little juice with him from Donaldsonville, Louisiana. So now he was a good football player. And he had a couple good players out there to create a little bit of problems.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about the pass rush? Obviously the same guy there got that big sack on the blitz. What were your thoughts on the edge rushers and how they performed?
Well, we really challenged the guys to really stay in their rush lanes and cage the quarterback, because probably the scariest thing was him getting out and creating plays with his feet, and he's a small guy, and we were scared that we wouldn't be able to see him. So all week we were saying, cage him, cage him, cage him, keep him in the cage. We didn't really want to rush past him. I thought we did that for the most part. We got a sack on the first, I think it was the first series. We got a sack on him. We got one later. Then he just started trying to get the ball out of his hand really fast, and he started scrambling a little bit and throwing it away. So we ended up getting 3 sacks on the day. We probably missed one we should have got. Probably should have been around 4 or 5, but I thought we did a good job of rushing the passer.
Coach, I think you mentioned during fall camp that you're going to use like that jack position out and to kind of work with some pass coverage. I know Najee dropped back because I think he almost had a pick at one point. How do you think him and Jafari did in that role?
They did good. Jafari dropped the rail route one time when they converted at 3rd and medium. But he hadn't seen that play before, and it happens. We had corrections. We went over it today, actually. And I thought they did a good job. We did a good job of disguising inside, dropping those guys, and kind of mixing up on 3rd down. And I think they completed. I think there was 2 of 12 on 3rd down. So I think, and we had a lot of 3rd and mediums. So when it's 3rd and long, your percentage usually is a lot higher. When you get 3rd and mediums, usually it drops a little bit, but it didn't. I thought we executed pretty good.
And kind of, you just mentioned it, I think you were 2 of 12 on 3rd down, I think 0 of 3 on 4th down. How much did you emphasize getting off the field in situations like that?
3rd down's huge for us. We would put a lot of time into it. 4th down, it just depends, I mean, it can be like a 4th, it can be like a 3rd and medium, it can be like a 3rd and short. Coach Cristobal through fall camp went for it on 4th down every time we had a 4th down. So Coach Cristobal's the one who got us ready for 4th down, not me. Every scrimmage he went for it on 4th down like they, because when you in a scrimmage, you don't lose on offense, right? I mean, if you don't punt, they just flip it around but anyway, he did a good job of preparing us for 4th down, and we were mentally tough, which was good.
James and Cam, I know you put a lot on your safeties. How do you feel like they did running things?
He did okay. Cam didn't get a lot of action, but he had 2 really big hits, ran the alley well. James had a good pressure. One time, James probably should have blitzed and switched with the other defensive back. He didn't. But I thought they were sound. They'll get challenged a lot more this week. There'll be a lot more speed on the field. And we'll have a lot more in the game plan probably this week. So their role will pick up probably a lot.
Now that you've seen your team in a game situation, is this one of the most talented teams that you've ever coached?
Well, I think everything has parity. So I always judge what we have compared to the other team. So the better players they have, the better players we better have. The lesser players they have, they're not going to have lesser players. So you got to know what you got. You got to know what you're going against. Basically, people on all levels can run and tackle, but the sizes of the people change and different. So I've had a lot of defenses that were really, really fast. It just wasn't big as the players I have, but we didn't go up against those big type of players. But we're better up front, of course, than anywhere I've been. At linebacker, probably got more big guys, and my safeties have never been that big. But we've always had speed at the places I've been. So I like our defense, but we got some good offenses down the road we're going to face. So we got a tall task this week.
Coach, speaking of size, Noah Thomas, obviously is a tall receiver. Maybe the challenges of corners or defensive backs in defending someone that's tall, you're going to see more of them.
Well, if Najee could cover guys down the field as fast, I'd put Najee on them. But it is what it is. They got big wide outs, and we're going to have to do a good job of defending those big guys with smaller guys sometimes. It's just the way it is. We'll have to get pressure on the quarterback, of course, and we'll have to predict when they are going to go deep and maybe mix up some coverage type things to try to help ourselves out.
How do you think the Brown brothers did?
They did good. The young guy kind of got a taste of college football, He didn't look back for the ball one time, but he'll get better. He didn't look spooked or scared by any means, so I think the more he plays, the better he's going to get. His brother played more snaps than him, so I'm excited. At least we have a bunch of different guys that we can put in and plug in and kind of whoever's hot, play them. So we'll continue to play a bunch of guys.
You got young guys in. You got young guys in fourth quarter late. Any of them flash in their little role that?
Not really, but when you get to the end of a game like that, and they put in an athletic quarterback, I was really worried about them putting him in the regular time because he can run the football. So we worked a bunch of wildcat plays, power read stuff. So I had a plan for him, and then he comes in, he's just running conventional offense. So I couldn't do a lot of coverage stuff because I was scared he was going to run. So it made us play man-to-man all the time. But we held him at the end, you know, which was great. Anytime you can hold them and not give up a touchdown is good in college football, and they did what we asked them to do. So they bent but didn't break.
Coach, you mentioned a challenge for your defense going up with this week coming up, facing an SEC team. I mean, how do you anticipate this also strengthening your defense mentally before the ACC gets underway in a couple of weeks?
I think they just look at it as another opponent, a talented opponent, of course. I don't think they look at it as an SEC team or an ACC or a Big 12. They look and they watch film and they know who can play. So it's always good to be tested, but it's good to have a game, not just say a tune-up game, but a game that, you know, you feel like you can play a lot of people and you can kind of work some kinks out, especially when it's your first game you're playing with a new system. And now you get tested early on against a good football team. And I like the game where it's at, you know, meaning in the schedule. It's game 2, and that's where you're supposed to have your biggest, you know, strides. You know, you're supposed to make the biggest improvement there. So I thought we played pretty clean, but we're going to have to play really good this week.
Do you know Coach Fisher at all? Just obviously he was at LSU for a while.
I know him. He don't know me. I know of him. When I was coaching at McNeese, he was the OC there, and I sat at a table with him one time. Coach Haywood was on that staff at LSU, and I knew Coach Haywood, but I really don't know Coach Fisher personally. But I know he's been a really good football coach everywhere he's been, another good offensive mind. So they got 2 guys that are looking at us right now and looking at stuff I did before and our players, and they're going to have a good plan, but we got to tweak some things we've done.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Yes, sir.